What if the next medical breakthrough could change thousands of lives? Welcome to Moving Medicine Forward, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on the breakthroughs shaping the future of healthcare. I'm your host, Jeremy Schran, and together with CTI's leading experts, we explore the cutting edge of clinical research transforming patient care. Each episode, we dive into the science, strategy, and innovation driving medical advancements, joined by global therapeutic experts who are redefining how we understand and treat critical disease. From rare genetic conditions to revolutionary treatment protocols, we're not just discussing research, we're sharing the human stories that move medicine forward. Today's episode is all about relationships behind the scenes that make complex work possible. We're joined by Shakirah Bradford, Senior Director of Vendor Management and Sourcing here at CTI, whose unconventional career path led to nearly 15 years of experience across industries like automotive manufacturing, financial services, and healthcare. Shakirah shares how she found her way into sourcing, why vendor management is especially complex in highly regulated environments like clinical research, and what it truly means to move from transactional vendor relationships to strategic partnerships. She also offers thoughtful insights on leadership, creativity, and the importance of curiosity, along with advice for anyone interested in building a career in vendor management or sourcing. Let's dive right in. Welcome to the podcast, Shakirah. We are very excited to have you here today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's start off. Can you share a bit about your background and the path that led you into vendor management and sourcing?
Sure. So a little bit about myself. I have about 15 or so years of sourcing and vendor management experience across a plethora of industries, ranging from automotive manufacturing to financial services and healthcare. My path to sourcing and vendor management has been very unconventional, actually. When I was in college, I wanted to be a pharmacist. I was a pre-pharmacy major, thought I had it all figured out, and then took a turn in a few electives that led me down the business path, so I switched majors to economics. My first job out of college was actually in a somewhat of a supply chain role. However, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do and where I wanted my career path to take me. And coincidentally enough, there was an intern that worked with us on our team, and I established a really strong relationship and connection with her. After her term was over as our intern, she ended up leaving to go to a Fortune 100 company. And I made a joke to her when she left and said, "Okay, never forget me." And about 6 weeks or so later, I received a phone call from the organization saying that she had put my name in a hat and thought that I would be a great fit for a buyer role that they had. I took the offer, interviewed with the organization, and from there on, I knew that this is what I wanted to do. I learned so much there as far as the fundamentals for core relationship building, negotiating, and just really the core foundations to being a great buyer and vendor manager. So very unconventional, but once I got in it, I realized that this was the career path for me, and it just organically happened.
You're currently the Senior Director of Vendor Management and Sourcing. How would you describe your role today and what you're ultimately responsible for in the organization?
My responsibilities are essentially selecting, contracting, and managing our third-party providers that provide services for us across the organization. They can range from vendors that support us on clinical trials all the way to facility management vendors. I'm responsible for ensuring that we have the appropriate third-party vendors selected that we can rely on to get work done at the right price and at the appropriate quality and delivery levels that we expect.
For people who aren't really familiar with vendor management and maybe they're stuck in the clinical trials and the day-to-day research, how do you describe that to a family member or friend? Like, what do you do all day? How do you describe that in simple terms?
I'll give you an analogy. If I need to build a house, I have to have inspectors, carpenters, plumbers, electricians. They all show up, but someone has to manage them all to make sure that they're doing what they said they would do, when they said they would do it, and at the right quality that we would expect in order to meet the requirements to sell the house. So that's what I do. I connect all of the dots here at CTI. We cannot do all of the work that we need to perform for our sponsors or customers on our own. We have to hire outside companies to help us execute on our plans. And I'm the person that connects the dots.
What makes vendor management in our specific industry so uniquely complex compared to other industries?
Because we're so regulated. If I think about other industries that may not be as regulated, they can pretty much operate within their own wheelhouse, do as they please, contract with who they want, but it's a lot different here. We're required to first ensures, especially if it's a clinical related vendor, ensure that the vendor meets the standards that we've set forth, depending upon the complexity or the type of services that they're providing. So that creates a nuance. And then if you think about regulating entities, depending on where you are geographically, those vary. If we want to conduct business in China, for an example, there's different regulations that we have to abide by in China compared to the FDA requirements here in the U.S. I would definitely say that's what makes clinical trials very complex and very different than other industries.
From your perspective, how do strong vendor relations directly impact study quality, timelines, and overall success?
It really is key in order for us to be successful. If we think about ourselves on a personal level, people do business better with who they trust. If I have a favor that I need or a rush job, if we've established core foundational relationships with vendors, they know us, they know how we do work, they know what our expectations are before the fact, allows us to promptly execute on bids. It allows us to work with a reduced supply base, which therefore allows us to work together more effectively, know each other better, and be more productive and efficient on our execution of those services.
What are some common challenges organizations face when managing vendors, and what tends to make those challenges harder in clinical research?
Different priorities. Here at CTI, we have so many different departments, and everyone has their own goals and objectives that all lead to a successful execution of a trial. Meeting those different timelines and different requirements for all of the different departments is definitely challenging.
In your experience, what separates a transactional vendor relationship from a true partnership?
Transactional vendor relationships to me are those which may be one-off occurrences or those that we have not really conducted a thorough vetting process when we decided to work with a particular vendor. It could be a vendor that someone just may happen to know. They might have met them at a trade show or may have heard great things about them via word of mouth, as opposed to us thoroughly vetting, evaluating, conversing, and qualifying a vendor, not from a QA perspective, but from a perspective of whether or not we think they would even be a good fit to do business with for CTI. When we start to establish those preferred vendor, strategic alliance partnerships, these are vendors that we not only expect to be high performing, but they've proven themselves over and over again. And they meet the mark as far as delivery, quality, patient impact, and also from a negotiation perspective as far as efficiencies that can be gained by continuously working with them.
As you've progressed in your leadership, how has your approach to decision making or relationship building evolved over time?
Earlier on in my career, I was more focused on go, 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 achieve, grow, climb. As I've grown and evolved, I've learned to listen more and take a step back with my customers. And for me, my customers are my internal stakeholders. It could be any department that I've worked with in the organization, whether it be marketing with you, I've worked with you, Jeremy, or if I'm working with someone in therapeutic strategy, really understanding and identifying what their needs are, and then taking that as the foundation of how I execute on my work, as opposed to being siloed and focusing maybe specifically only on savings or cost efficiencies, really understanding what the goals and objectives are of the individual department or customer that I'm working with.
You kind of touched on this a little bit, but what skills and qualities do you think are the most important for success in vendor management and sourcing roles today?
Creativity. Surprisingly enough, in our role, we think data analytics, negotiation, communication skills, all needed, all necessary in order to be successful. But you have to have a sense of creativity as well. No 2 days are the same in this line of work, and sometimes you have to move the needle and think outside the box in order to accomplish your goals. So I would definitely say creativity, being curious every day. I'm never in a meeting or I never have a conversation where I don't ask a question. I don't care what the question may be. I'll just ask a question and try to continue to learn daily as well. So creativity, listening, asking questions, and remaining curious.
What advice would you give to professionals who are interested in building a career in vendor management or sourcing or leadership within our industry?
My first point of advice for anyone that would be interested in vendor management is select an industry that you're passionate about. If you're passionate about cars, consider automotive. When you're passionate about your work, you're more effective in your work and you're more empowered. And that's really what led me to CTI. I know earlier on we talked about my passion for pharmacy. That was actually my first ever job, was a pharmacy tech, and all throughout college as well. But since then, and as I've matured in my career, I've learned that I need to be in a place that does something that I'm passionate about. I recently actually lost my grandmother to renal failure, and it really made my purpose here more sound. And it made it more personal when I come to work every day, right? If I think about the type of work that we do for our patients with rare diseases, we do tons of kidney transplant studies, and just thinking about the impact, even though I'm not necessarily working one-on-one with patients or at our sites, but I'm still behind the scenes making it happen and doing something that means something. And that's what really continues to motivate me to come to work every day, on challenging days even, to put up the good fight and do the work. I would definitely say working in an industry that you're passionate about. And I think it just all connects and all works together. The dots just somehow figure themselves out and align, and you'll be successful.
What an excellent answer to that question. I love that.
Thank you.
It's really great for me to sit here and talk to our fellow colleagues around the company, because you really do get to hear the passion about the work that we're doing.
Yes.
No matter where you are, if you are on the clinical side, marketing, or in vendor management, it's really refreshing.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Shakirah,
you.
for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
It was great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Shakirah Bradford for joining us today and for sharing her insights on vendor management, leadership, and the power of strong partnerships. It was great hearing about her journey and the impact her work has behind the scenes. And as always, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave us a review. Visit CTI Facts to learn more about how we can help you with your clinical trials. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep moving medicine forward.